We'll move to item 8.2, transport reform. Governance decisions. Councillor Baker, you and Councillor Henderson have been going to all the local boards about this, and thank you for that. Would you like to say anything before staff kick off? There is a chair's recommendation going up for recommendation about the political reference group for the city centre, which you've all got and who's on that, and so I'm going to note here that Toby was going to be here, but he's not here according to me. But just Andy and Councillor Baker and Councillor Henderson, anything you want to add to this? Councillor Baker.
Oh yeah, just in a similar vein to what Joe just did. So just want to acknowledge the work that's been done to get through this. It's it is a tricky thing, and it's a very, very important thing, and just acknowledge, I guess, the really good conversations that are happening at local board level, well not level, at local boards. They are, from Shane and I going to all of the workshops between us. Their questioning is really on point, and it shows that they have their heads around what's coming and why, and so I really want to commend them for that. It's I am sure we're going to get some really, really good feedback when local boards give us that feedback, and it's for them to give the feedback and not for us to assume that we can speak for them. So, I'm really looking forward to that, and just want to commend them and the team. It's a 45-minute presentation. I think I've got 4 tomorrow and 4 on Thursday. My head will be spinning, but it's really good work, and so quality feedback I'm sure will be coming. So well done.
Oh, I just agree with Chair Baker. Thanks to staff. It's a very complex piece of work, and it's required a lot of mature conversations and thinking. And just to echo what Andy said, the local boards have been extremely impressive and have been really great governance partners in this process, and will continue to do so. So yeah, just delighted that we're here, really. And thank you very much.
Okay, we'll go to the staff presentation from Megan. Introduce Rebecca and
Kia ora, thank you. Mr Chair, councillors, thank you for having us today. I'm a very poor substitute for Toby, so I will answer to Toby or Megan this morning. And to my right, I have Rebecca McEwen and Jared as well from Auckland Transport to help with the presentation and to answer any questions. Thank you to Councillors Baker and Henderson for the introduction. It is a complex piece of work. We are trying to make it as simple as possible, and we are working to work really hard with the local boards as well, as Councillor Baker said. So what you have today is a set of recommendations that the Mayor has said that there's a Chair's rec, but you have a set of recommendations which start with some in-principle decisions. We're not asking for your final one because we haven't got the final set of suggestions and feedback from local boards. We will come back to you in September once we have that. The second part then, though, are a set of recommendations that we believe you can make a decision on. And the focus here is that the governing body has the requirement to allocate non-regulatory decision-making between itself, the governing body, and local boards, to look at responsibilities between local boards and governing body, to establish the governance arrangements that the governing body wants to put in place in order to meet their responsibilities, to make those decisions. Also, the extent and level of staff delegations are important as well. So we're going to touch on all of those things. We've got a few slides that will hopefully just take you through, and hopefully the recommendations are clear enough with the in-principles at the beginning, and then the decisions we're asking you to make today. Rebecca, I'll hand to you. Thank you.
Kia ora, thanks Megan. So just to touch on the progress that we've made to update and also the focus of today. So a significant amount of work is underway to operationalise transport reform. Some decisions, as you can see there, such as the Auckland Roading Classification Framework, bylaw amendment approach and policy and plan transfer approaches have decisions have already been made last week. Decisions today focus primarily on the governance arrangements and allocation of responsibilities and delegation settings. And I understand tomorrow you have got a workshop on local board funding arrangements where we have got a recommendation that funding sits in the long-term plan process. So just, I suppose, a quick recap that the legislation provides local board powers directly through Schedule 4 and bylaws on local and collector roads. The types of decisions that local boards will be accountable for are summarised on the slide, but these include parking and stopping controls, traffic controls, corridor and network access permissions, property and landowner decisions, road naming on local and collector roads, and some infrastructure decisions such as the power to construct and upgrade cycle tracks or paths. Quick update on a couple of changes since the workshop last week. We had questions in the workshop around the wording around the Eden Park delegations that we were suggesting. We have changed the language, and you'll see that in the report, so that decision makers must consider the impact on Eden Park operations. And in terms of corridor access request conditions, we have updated the Package B staff delegations to reflect the disruption impact. So that was a request from the workshop, and we're suggesting that staff delegation is for low or moderate impact sort of disruptions, or where the high impact can be mitigated. Where there is a high disruption corridor access request that cannot be mitigated, we're suggesting that that be referred to the Road Controlling Authority Subcommittee. So just recapping what we are sort of seeking today. So as Megan touched on, we've got some in-principle decisions, and that includes the allocation of non-regulatory transport responsibilities between governing body and local boards, and that's covered off in Recommendation A. And just to note that this is intended to cover off local placemaking being a local board responsibility. Second, the delegation of certain statutory powers over and above what's already provided for in legislation. That is covered off in Recommendation B and C. And these decisions from you today will enable us to seek that formal local board feedback. Thirdly the agreement that transport funding should continue to be largely program-led while retaining a locally bound component that allows local board to respond to local priorities. That is covered through E and F, and that also includes that our recommendation should be that is further developed through the long-term plan process. So decisions from you today are largely around operational governance, and the first is the establishment of a Road Controlling Authority Subcommittee. This subcommittee is intended to provide a focused forum for Road Controlling Authority decisions, and just to reiterate that all bylaw decisions that require resolution will need to be made by elected members and cannot be delegated to staff. We're also recommending, as part of the report, that there are changes to the governing body terms of reference, and those sort of recommendations combined are covered in G, H and I. And finally, we're recommending the establishment of a city centre political reference group to support staff decision making in the city centre precinct and to provide elected member insight on significant city centre matters, and that's Recommendation J. In addition, we are seeking approval of the proposed staff delegation package B and the associated thresholds. So the decisions sought today are fundamentally about enabling implementation. They allow staff to begin the detailed business processes and governance mechanisms needed for the transition on 1 October. This includes, but isn't limited to, dispute resolution processes, call-in arrangements and reporting mechanisms for delegated decisions. Approval today will also enable structured engagement with local boards on allocation and delegation matters. It will allow the development of guidance tools and training resources to support elected members and staff as we move into the new operating environment. Overall, today's decisions provide the foundation for a smooth and practical transition to the transport governance model. We believe that the recommendations provide a pragmatic starting point that balances effective governance, local input and operational efficiency, and we have considered feedback from elected members throughout. They provide a clear pathway while providing and preserving the opportunity to refine arrangements following experience after the first year of operations. And back to the chair.
Thank you. Have any questions of the team out here? I have a small one to kick it away there. In the local and collector roads, there's a heading there of cruising. Quite exactly what does that mean? No, it's not a collector road on a boat.
Cruising is, it's kind of like a boy racer activity where you've got multiple cars heading on kind of convoy along a road, or one car repeatedly going up and down a road showing off loud engines. So it's a kind of, the kind of boy racer cars, and it's a restriction that gives the police powers to remove them from the road.
I take it that's quite well defined somewhere. That sounds like an opportunity for misinterpretation.
Yeah, that's defined in the Land Transport Act.
In your day, I think they called it bodgies.
Cultural advice, thank you, Councillor Fitcher. Councillor Baker, and I've got Councillor Gillen, Morrison, Williamson and Turner in that order, please.
Yeah, the cruising question is one that pops up every workshop. So, but yeah, just my question is in regard to the placemaking sort of aspect of the decision making. So, can you confirm that there is a mechanism that does or will exist for local boards and communities through, who've got bids and things like that, to exert appropriate influence through a placemaking lens in the likes of town centres?
Thank you. Absolutely. So we see the allocation of the non-regulatory responsibilities between governing body and local boards in to be able to give that responsibility for local placemaking to local boards. What you won't see in the recommendations is the processes to enable that. So after decisions today, the intention is that staff shift focus and start developing the detailed processes required, and that will include sort of enhancing how we enhance the current kōkiri process, how we develop local board work programs, regional programs, and also how community engagement works, and that would include the ability for business associations and community members to input into that sort of forward work program and project process as well. So that's the focus for us over the next 8 weeks leading up to 1 October.
Councillor Gillen, please.
Well, thank you. I'm pretty happy with all of this except for I've got questions about the delegations. Now, in the delegations, you've got a lot of mention of the general protocols. There is a brief summary in the report, but can you just go through what the general protocols are, please, for staff delegation? And will there be an opportunity prior to decisions being made on these items, or will the Transport Committee or the new subcommittee not find out about decisions being made under the general protocols until after the decision has been made by staff?
Thank you. So just to sort of recap what those general protocols look like, and for anyone in the report, it's paragraph 57. So we've got the guardrails of staff needing to operate within current policies and guidelines, sort of a no surprises approach for any areas that may involve reputational, financial performance or political risk, and setting up an agreed frequency of reporting on work programs. We have included in here a protocol around being able to call in the delegated authority. Now, that's not something that currently exists, so we're proposing to build that into an update to the terms of reference of TID subcommittee, and we're looking to bring a report to the TID on the 25th of August, where we'll go into a bit more detail on that. I think that covers the bulk of the thinking that we've done to date. So again, similar to the last response, after we have decisions today, work over the next 8 weeks will be how we stand up these mechanisms. To the question around will there be an opportunity to call in a decision ahead of time, if it's one that's been delegated to staff, I think the answer is probably not, unless we sort of deploy that no surprises approach where staff are worried about the impact of a decision and sort of opt to refer it back to the committee.
Thank you. So with that in mind, and that the committee will have the ability to recall decisions, but only if they know about it, and they may not know about it because it's being undertaken by staff. Can you please tell me why, in the list of delegations, you are recommending that some quite contentious items sit with staff, including the installation of speed bumps on arterial roads, bearing in mind that after the decision last week, arterial roads include any road over 5,000, in general 5,000 vehicles per day, when AT's current code of practice is it should be around 25 to 40,000 vehicles per day. So the question is, why are you recommending that staff have the delegation to determine where speed bumps will be installed on arterial roads?
Yeah, I guess the approach taken was which controls don't require a resolution, so it could be made by staff. So that was one of the ones. Installation of a road hump could be made by a staff decision. Currently, the same applies at Auckland Transport. We've got the resolutions for the TCC, and staff has the power for road humps. In actual fact, staff don't really end up making these decisions for speed humps because they generally require other measures like breaking yellow lines and subsequent controls on top of it that do require resolution, so it'd have to go to the kind of subcommittee. So it was a mechanism saying, well, if there's something kind of simple, the staff could make the decision. So that was the kind of basis for it. But I don't think if the change was that governing body subcommittee was to make that decision, I don't think it would have any impact on the workload because most of them would kind of go to them anyway.
Sorry, you say there won't be an impact on workload if we change it so that delegation actually sat with the committee. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
then my next question is a similar question. Currently, you're proposing delegations for all new cycleways to be sitting with staff and not come to the committee. So what's the rationale behind that, please? Because that's, again, another contentious thing that I believe should be sitting with elected members. So as part to protect staff as well, because we know that can be controversial in the community. But is there a rationale for saying that cycle paths should be sitting with staff? And that's under infrastructure number 1 and 5.
Yeah, so cycleways, so we've got the cycle lanes, which is a special vehicle lane, so that's on the road, so that does require a resolution. Cycleways being off the road, they don't. So a similar kind of comment to the speed humps. It would be a very low volume decision if we were just implementing that off the roadway as a standalone type of measure. Generally, it would go with other measures on the road.
Same question about speed limits. So you're looking at delegating all speed limits for arterial roads and all the faux arterial roads to staff. Can you please just elaborate on that one?
Yeah, so the speed limits, generally you need a speed management plan. And then if it aligns with the speed management plan, that would have to be approved by the governing body, or if it's a local and collector road, by the local board. So then staff would have the power to make the decisions that align with that plan. If it's not in alignment with that plan, then from memory, I might have to check, staff don't have that delegation. Okay,
then there's also like pedestrian crossings, community-led play, roadway, artwork, disposal of land that's from the road corridor. There's a whole lot of stuff in there which you are proposing to be delegated to staff, and I'm really concerned that the committee will not have the visibility of that, and therefore, in theory, can recall it if we find out about it. But the whole purpose, from my view, in this change in legislation is to bring these sorts of decisions under elected members so that firstly, we're responsible to the public for these decisions, and the ones I've listed are some of the controversial ones. There's other ones in there which I don't know. We need to have a discussion really on whether they should be sitting there or not. And then the other reason is also to protect the staff as well. We know that Auckland Transport was loathed over a number of controversial decisions in the community, and potentially the same thing could happen with the staff here if people find out that these decisions are being made. And it's exacerbated by the decision we made last week where 25% of all roads are now going to sit under this framework. The ones under local board, fine, because people are going to be able the opportunity to go and talk to the local board and local board members and see the decisions and that. But that 25, 26% that are going to sit as, pretend arterial roads under here are going to be delegated away to staff. So I'm really concerned about this.
I think what we're seeing with the attachment B with the staff delegations is that a lot of the work that requires decisions will actually have come to committee, either local boards or governing body, ahead of time as we're developing up the work programs. And what we're seeing in the schedule is sort of the detailed sort of end of the process decision making. And so, yeah, a lot of the time, actually, staff won't be taking decisions in isolation of guidance already provided by elected members through the development of the work programs, through the scoping and design of projects as well. So what we're talking about with the delegation package is often at the very end of the process where decisions are required to legalise the controls to get the outcome required that's been specified by elected members.
That's a very good question, and I've already got a supplementary from the deputy over that, but I think I'm guessing what Councillor Gillen is referring to, some things are more controversial than others. And so when you're correcting an intersection or something that's not so controversial, but shoving a speed bump has turned to be very controversial. And so the ability to spot controversial things in staff, or the ability to have some understanding of what's likely to be controversial, somehow or other it's a bit hard to put legislation together for that, but I think that we want some thinking. I think the other thing about this is that it's an iterative process with how we deal with local boards. There's an appetite for giving more to local boards, and I think that we should be showing that we have kind of some sort of review on a 6-month or an annual basis of how it's going and what's worked out well. Is that kind of what you're after?
Yes, it's going to be reviewed in 12 to 18 months or something, but in the interim, I foresee a number of potential political risk here for all of us sitting around this table, and I think that people need to be looking thoroughly through this information rather than just rubber stamping what's here. So I've outlined a few of the points where I think there could be issues. I think that if you could pull those out, because we can amend these delegations now on the fly, don't have to adopt them as they're here. So I think that if you're going to be moving this, Mr. Mayor, you need to be looking at pulling some of that stuff out at this point.
Okay, well, I don't know, we haven't reached a full final decision yet, even by making a decision today, but there are some controversial things where we have a list of those that go out to everybody when we're going to put a whole lot of bumps in. But maybe we could use bumps as an example of many potentially controversial things. If we can work out a system for that works for everybody, that might be quite helpful. But we'll give it a bit of thought on that. There's a supplementary from the Deputy Mayor on this, and Councillor Hills is waving his arm as a supplementary. Is this?
Thanks,
I'll put it
Wayne.
on the list.
Thanks, Chair.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask the question a different way. If a local board, if staff had delegation to do something and they went, what is the process that if they say to a local board in your area, your rohi, whatever, we will be putting a whatever it in, this is our decision, but obviously you're telling the local board, you wouldn't do it without telling the local board. What if the local board or the politician, the local councillor or the local board did not agree you should be doing what you're doing on one of the roads? What is the process for that? Because I think we're getting a bit I think he makes a very good point. If you just let that go as a story, it may not be the right story. My understanding is that there is still a process. This is what the question is. Tell me what the process is to get to that final decision making. It's not as if elected members don't know about this at all and it's just going to be done without them having any input or say. Is that correct? What is the process for politically someone to say, back the truck up, sorry, no, don't want that speed hump there, and this is why, and have that discussion? How does that work?
Thank you. You're absolutely right. So local board input is absolutely required, and so the detailed work over the next 8 weeks will get down to a really granular level. But at a high level, a project on an arterial road, as an example, that had an impact on the local board will absolutely require engagement with the local board. And if that's a governing body decision, we will represent the local board views back to the TID RCA subcommittee. If it's a staff decision and input from the local board has indicated that they do not support, it is likely that that would fall into that no surprises category, and maybe one that we escalate up to that TID RCA subcommittee. So what we don't want to do is sort of create that contention between local boards and staff. So yeah, likely that that falls into that no surprises.
I think what I'm asking is there a way to ensure that political decision making on some of the issues like speed humps, can be political? Because if, respectfully, the front page of the Herald Test, and I don't even think they're here, is that, we are delegating staff all decisions around all these things and you'll never have a say. That is not correct. But I just really want to be clear that there will be political input and ability to say no and refuse. I mean, we do that now in some respects. Sometimes we can't. So that's why, one of the advantages of this change is that politically you can influence those contentious decisions. So I just want to make sure that that is really clear and there is a process, and it isn't, yes, we've listened to you, but we're going to do it anyway. There is a process, we have listened to you, and if it's really, we won't do it. I want to make sure that that is a process we're signing up for here.
Through the chair, the answer is yes. That is our absolute intention and our commitment to do that. What we haven't done is the work to show you what that process is. But I just want to be really clear. There's no suggestions with the matters of delegation that is somehow taking away any of the important or controversial matters that will be before you, and similarly to local boards as well, because we're asking them the same thing in terms of some delegations as well. What we haven't been able to do, though, is do the work. So I'm happy to commit now, or you can put it as a rec if you want to, is that over the next 8 weeks, we want to provide you the way in which we will be either making those or considering those political implications, how we could work probably through the chair and deputy chair of the subcommittee to ensure that we are making the right calls or otherwise, and then how that comes to that subcommittee or the governing body to make those decisions ultimately.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I won't speak again, but this is exactly what the public want. They want to know that the people who vote for them have a say, the say, not somebody else, not some bureaucrat somewhere. Thank you.
I think the things like, if it's an intersection or something that affects traffic flow across our region, that's obviously not overly local, but speed bumps really are a kind of a really local thing. That's a real local board decision. Speed bumps should have to go to local boards, really, and because people get upset about their street and their little bit of their street. If it's not a thing about flowing,
yes, and
they're
most
not
of them
part
will.
of the 30-year plan. I don't think the 30-year plan is going to come down to speed bumps, if that's all right.
No, that's right. And so, of course, on local and collector roads, that's exactly what the local boards will be determining. And if there is any delegation to staff around the speed bumps, it will be because the local boards and similarly the governing body here or the subcommittee will have already signed off the project that would have a speed bump in a particular way, and then staff will be able to implement that. So yes, that's exactly right, Mr. Chair, in terms of local boards and speed bumps.
Okay. Councillor, is your question about this, or is it Jim? No. Righto, it's
It was just-
supplementary on the,
Sorry to those who are ahead of me. I just want to make it understand clearly. I think this is a misunderstanding over language. Right now, we approve projects, or the Auckland Transport approves a project. It then has to go to a traffic control committee to sign it off to be in the right position for NZTA rules, for fines, for all that sort of thing. So we might go, we want a town centre upgrade that's 40k zones. We've signed off the plan with 40Ks, but it's the staff that then sign off the legal position, the fact that it's 3 metres from an intersection, 4 signs. I'm assuming that's the difference. The governing body or the local board signs off the project and the plan. Like, it's not a surprise, but it's staff who have to get into the nitty gritty. This is the exact regulations that apply, because that already happens right now. The Auckland Transport Board sign off a project, but the TCC then have to sign off the final delegation, or sometimes that staff, they're signing off hundreds of speed signs. Is that, can someone just say that in that way? Because I think...
I think we get that, but we were wandering into the speed bump thing there, I think. And I think standardisation will limit a lot of that stuff from now on. Councillor Williamson, please.
Yeah, thanks. Look, I'm not going to express a view strongly one way or the other, but I am going to sort of come from the old lag department of watching out for stepping on landmines. I remember meeting, I think it was on the 15th of April 2012, just straight downstairs with Mayor Len Brown, and I think, Phil, you would have been at the meeting because we used to have a quarterly meeting as ministers with the Mayor. And the first thing he opened up with, you guys made the biggest mistake you've ever made by your Auckland Council legislation by separating out and having isolated AT. And it just means that we as elected councillors and mayor and others have got no say. They go ahead, do whatever they bloody well want, and we are just having to live with consequence after it. So it dates right back to that. I made the notes at the time. I mistakenly wrote down AT'd with a double ED, thinking that's what he'd said, but it found out it was not AT'd in those days, it was AT. So when the new government made the decision to change the legislation, break up Auckland Transport's control and pass it back to us, I want to ask a few questions of officials. Did you read the first reading of that bill? Did you read the explanatory notes? And did you read in particular the minister's first reading speech to that bill? Because they're really important as to what the government intention was.
Through the chair, I did read the first bill. I can't recall. I don't think I read the minister's speech or notes as a result of that.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, the explanatory notes were very clear about 4 categories of roads: arterial roads, local roads, collector roads, and city centre roads. And under the bill we're introducing today, I want it to be local boards will exercise statutory decision-making powers over local roads and collector roads. And he excluded both arterial and any city centre roads. And that's what the explanatory note said as well. But when I checked on what arterial roads were, they were the original definition that AT had for the big volumes of vehicles and so on. We've changed that. Now, secondly, when I asked at the workshop last week about this, officials said to me, oh, but you don't understand. The select committee made changes to the original bill, and that's why these are all included. Now, I've gone back and I've looked at the select committee's changes, and can I tell you that it's pretty clear. Sections 48 brackets 2E and 48 2F literally made 2 additionals. One was they included the Eden Park Precinct Road, and they then said, and a residual road, referring back to roads, I'll get it right, may be the responsibility of the centre because it could be through a regional park. And so none of those 2, either 48 2E or 48 2F, in any way expanded because I was a bit embarrassed the other day. I thought, geez, I didn't pick that up when it went through the select committee. And so when you answered me, oh, well, that the reason why we've gone from one or two roads, because I'm going to go through it now. If I looked at the original Howick Ward map, the minister of the time, Simeon Brown, the Minister of Transport, said there'd be about 4 major roads cut. You would cover Te Rakau, Te Rangi, Chapel, Pakuranga Road, and he said, I pretty much can't come up with anything else. Basically, the rest will be local board. When I saw the map the other day, I literally saw a plethora of blue all over the entire ward. Roads like Glenmore Road, Pigeon Mountain Road, Prince Regent Road, all just ordinary streets, really. They were all included as these bought into it. And I had the words of Len Brown ringing in my ear. We do not want the bureaucrats to have that remote control where we're just recreating the old AT. We want the elected people and at the grassroots level who know what's best for their community to have a say. Now, why I'm going through all this is, and I'll finish with this, I think you've got a snowball's chance in hell of a minister ever approving this proposal. And you do have to get approval from the minister. I think if any minister, and certainly the current Transport Minister will obviously talk to others in the Cabinet, I think they're going to look at these maps and go, what the hell happened here? That is not what we intended. We intended to give elected people control over cycleways and speed bumps and all sorts of controversial stuff, and not have the problem of some remote arm vehicle that just kept making stupid decisions all the time. It's the reason we got the bill. And so I think you're letting us down badly by A, not having read the explanatory notes and the minister's first speech, because that gives you the intent of what was to happen, and what we're currently proposing isn't. And I think you're letting us down badly by saying, oh, but the select committee made changes. It made 2 tiny ones, the Eden Park precinct and the residual roads through things like Regional Park. That's the only difference it made. And the fact is that when originally the bill was both introduced and spoken to in the Parliament, the attitude that all speakers from either those in favour or I don't even think there were that many opposed in the end, that they actually thought arterial roads were the definition of what they were. And that's changed as well. So I'm going to leave it at that. My friends here are getting all agitated because I'm not asking a question. It seemed that others could talk for as long as they like and it was okay, but I'm not allowed to. But I'm just saying to you, you're going to have troubles taking this to government. I'm happy to bet you $1 to a donut this will not get past a ministerial desk.
So I think he's asking you, what are you going to do about that?
Well, certainly that decision on the road classification framework was made last week through the Transport Committee, and so we have passed that on to the Minister. So we'll certainly come back to you if there are any questions or concerns raised by the Minister.
Good points, well made, and I think we've got to make sure that we are talking with ministers. There's no sense doing all this work and finding that we bomb out. So thank you for that, Councillor Williamson. The next one is Councillor Turner.
Thank you. Much of what I wanted to ask and say has been said and better than I could do it. But I do, at the beginning of last term, we talked about empowering local boards. There was quite a lot of talk of that in that long-term plan, which is still the current one at the moment. I know that in the West, our local boards are expecting, or they expected more than they're seeing coming out of all this. And I do also agree with Councillor Gillen about the fact of the protection to staff for what is getting in lots of cases more and more volatile conversations and decisions. You know, I go back to last term in 23, I think it was, when it was decided to make play streets, AT staff being threatened with a knife. So, you know, I've heard a lot of words like empower, likely, intent, but it's not something I like voting on. I'd like something more positive than that. Can you guarantee that we're still in the development stage here, and that I'm not going to be told you made a decision last Tuesday, Councillor, we're moving forward?
I'm not quite sure how to answer the question. Apart from saying that we're going around local boards at the moment with the same questions from a governance perspective for them. And so we will bring that back to you in September, just so that you can hear and understand any of their concerns and any changes that we are recommending around the governance for them. The road classification framework, as I said, has been signed off, and we will see what the Minister says, subject, as per Councillor Williamson's comments. We'll see if that gets signed off or not. The commitment here has been always to delegate as much powers between the governing body and the local boards. They will have a heap more than they have at the moment under Auckland Transport. And the staff delegations are ones that are at the end of a process or that are not politically controversial. And as I've said, we've committed to ensuring that we have a process coming to you about how we're going to make some of those judgments, and how you and governing body and local boards similarly will help us make those judgments, because we don't want to get in the road of good decision making and from communities as well. But we also haven't done all of the work either. So we're needing some decisions first in order for us to do the work. So in a way, it's a commitment. I'm not sure I can absolutely prove some of it, because we just haven't done the work yet.
Okay, thank you. I just, it's just the language has been changing the whole way along. I remember Councillor Baker's words when we were discussing this at some stage, where we talked about the fact that local boards don't have a lot of gutsy decision making to hang their hat on, and that this would give them some real sort of input into their communities and stand accountable for that. And the Mayor pointed out at one stage that, not all boards will succeed in this job that they're handed, but that's guaranteed. But some will be brilliant, some might not, but we were going to work forward on this platform. And what I see is us walking backwards from those sorts of powerful decisions. One last question that I just thought of while you were talking, sir. With these cruising laws, does that mean me and my Mustang and my mates going for a drive on a Sunday are going to be pulled up? And also, how many Teslas and other sorts of cars have to be spickled between the convoy to make sure that we're not cruising?
I've been in Auckland Transport for 14 years, and I don't recall any cruising restrictions actually being passed by the TCC. So we do a lot of light motor vehicle restrictions in industrial areas, so police can enforce those, but the cruising restrictions is not actually a power that Auckland Transport has used.
Thank you.
Well, in my car, there's a cruise control, you see. Councillor Sarah Patterson-Hamlin, please.
You'll be pleased to know I have nothing to say on the subject of cruising. I do have a quick question about recommendation M. I suppose it's about that. And in the corridor with Councillor Gillen, it started to come up, but I'm just still not 100% clear on a couple of things with the local board decision making. So because all the local boards essentially get to choose their own adventure to an extent, it's all slightly different. So two questions with that. One is, when does that get reviewed? Is that part of, as per M, is that part of the year one review? And the second question on that is, do the local boards that are extant now, are they effectively being given kind of a unique opportunity to make this decision, or is that going to be revisited each term, or is it just going to be revisited at the year one review, which will then determine the next time it gets reviewed? How is the kind of review process around the bespoke local board arrangements working?
Thank you. So the intent of M is to look at the entire system. So that would include local board arrangements. And some of the things we'll be looking at is the pace of decision making. So are the arrangements that we've put in place slowing down decisions, and is that having an adverse impact on communities? What is it doing for workload for both elected members and staff? So that will be wrapped up as part of that year one review. We're yet to develop the full scope, but that is certainly the intent there. Sorry, can you remind me of the second part of the question?
Yeah, I guess just with the local boards choosing quite bespoke arrangements at the moment, is the expectation that unless the review brings up some issues, that will continue for the rest of local boards' term ad infinitum, or is the expectation that the next local board that comes in gets to change it the way that they do with the local board plan?
So certainly the way that we've sort of designed the delegation packages and the protocols is that they can be reviewed on a regular basis, and that would be by engagement with the local board. So the intent isn't that we start from scratch every term, but there's certainly the opportunity to evolve those over time based on the needs of the board.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Newman, please.
Good morning. I have mixed views about this because, frankly, there are some decisions that I'm very reticent about the local boards taking. However, my concern actually is the application in staff delegation options attachment B, infrastructure related decisions 1 through 4. I'm not sure that I'm in favour of the recommendation for package B there. Those are quite detailed. Well, there's a lot that we're entrusting to staff in that particular space, and I have seen decisions taken by staff that are justified in part on the standards on the roading standards that apply at the time, which change, as well as philosophical preference for a type of how the network will work according to the paid employee, not the elected member. So what's the risk there that I'm empowering people to pursue their ideology as opposed to the intention of the act? Because like what Councillor Williamson pointed out, there is an intention with what Parliament has done here, and I don't believe that we should be reverse engineering out of that intention to send those decisions back to a paid staffer somewhere. So tell me why I'm wrong.
I think that Councillor Richard Hill has actually summed up the broader scope of projects better than I did when I was kind of trying to articulate decisions for various types of measures like pedestrian crossings or road humps. So when a project is created, we've already moved towards the empowering local board model. So we're going to the local boards, part of the caucus process. This is the project we want to do, get this signed off at program level, talk through the projects at different design stages, work out the risks, make sure they're comfortable, work out who can make the decision. Part of the decision making is elected members support the project. If they don't, it'll be an escalated decision. Staff wouldn't be putting their neck on the line for a decision like that. Let's say if it's on a arterial road and the local board don't agree, the staff wouldn't make that decision or go back to the governing body. So I think the protocols we have around projects and making sure that we've got elected member support for some of these decisions that can be made by staff, that would be like the kind of the baseline. If at the moment, under empowering local boards, if a local board doesn't agree with a project, certainly under the world I live in, a community initiated program, we're just not doing the project, or we're modifying the project. So there has been a huge shift in kind of local board input. I don't know, some of the local board thresholds are different to the governing body, because the governing body will try to say, hey, let's, make staff, if they can make the decision, let them make the decision. The local boards certainly have a lot of input. At the project level, they will continue and to have more input than they currently have. So, and when I've been going around to all the local boards at these workshops, a lot of them are saying, we've already moved to a system where we've got a lot of input in these projects now, so that's a shift over the last year or so, and some of them are, questioning why would they need to make this final change to sign off the control now they've been given all the input required to influence these projects.
The difficulty is I have seen staff acting in well, not you, but I have seen in recent years some staff acting bloody mindedly, frankly, where they're determined to get the outcome that they want, regardless of how the rest of the world thinks about it, and that includes the elected membership of the local board and councils and what have you, and so you get dirty, great big speed humps on the Great South Road, which are a huge inconvenience for every vehicle, and I've also seen very expensive new raised tables and what have you being installed this year, and 2 or 3 years time that gets completely ripped out and we go back to what we had previously at huge cost, both in terms of the capital cost and in terms of the loss of social license, because the community went through all that pain and then got back to the start, all because the staff had the power to take the decision they took it. Why do I have to today vote for package B in that B section, transport related decisions? I'm not sure that I don't really feel comfortable with package B under that subheading today. I prefer more comfortable with package C today, and you can come back and tell me in a year's time if actually that was wrong.
What I would propose for package B, because I do recognise that speed humps are a very contentious item, and I think under the local board package we had staff have the ability for modification only. New installations would be the local board. I propose for the governing body under package B we do the same shift, and certainly anyone, if a member of public does review it, because people like to complain about speed bumps, they can see that. There's very, very few speed tables going on arterial roads at the moment, so we've had a shift in standards, which is good from my traffic operations perspective. But I see that as one of the most contentious items, and potentially pedestrian crossings as well. If those two were shifted from staff decision to no staff delegation apart from modification, I think it would be an appropriate shift.
The chair, sorry, 2 more from me, Chair. It's not just about speed humps and raised tables. In that particular section at attachment B, it deals with the cycle track path on the legal roads, the shared paths, the footpaths, the carriageway on legal roads. So it is broader than that, and I get it. Staff sort of stand around the water cooler and say that will be contentious. We better go on. No, I think it goes back to what Parliament intended, which is the concern here, not what you thought. Actually, we better just go and check in with somebody. If Parliament intended it, you've got to get this signed off by the Minister, and I want this to work. And I'm just not, Chair, I'm not in favour of, in relation to B, infrastructure-related decisions, I'm not in favour of package B today. I'm in favour of package C today. I worry about where you're going with this. I don't think this is necessarily going to work today. Not for me. Thank you.
Challenging question. Councillor Bartley, please.
I'm just processing what everyone's talking about, but I'm looking at in